Oh, you thought you were slick. You thought you were slick with your trade deficit. You better start purchasing F-150 pickup trucks right now. Get to work, you lazy. For far too long, these so-called uninhabited islands have refused to buy American.
Donald Trump's tariffs do not represent all Americans.
Yeah, gruesome Governor Gavin Newsom, who obviously maintains the tech hub of the planet with Silicon Valley, is trying to cut side deals as the 5th largest standalone economy on the planet. Because in terms of retaliatory tariffs from the European Union, they don't buy a lot of our cars. They do buy a decent number, but they don't buy a lot of our products. But there is one thing that they do buy. It's tech. So if Europe comes down hard and in retaliatory tariffs against the United States of America, you might as well put all of the onus on California and on the Californian economy, because California is what sells a lot of this product, a lot of these services, financial services, tech services, things of that nature. It's like California and New York. And that is basically what Europe consumes and purchases from us. So if the EU comes back hard with retaliation in the form of adding additional hurdles to enter the marketplace for tech coming in from the United States of America, or additional regulation, California's kind of cooked. Oh, see, France singles out digital services for EU's tariff response. Exactly. Tech accounts for 21% of all U.S. exports. Yeah, also for EU, it's a larger percentage, if I'm not mistaken. And a big chunk of that comes from California, which is precisely the reason why Gavin Newsom is like, hey, now, we are the 5th largest economy as a state. Let's make a side deal. Let's make a deal. We love deals.
And on behalf of 40 million Americans that live in the great state of California, the tentpole of the U.S. economy, 14% of the U.S. GDP, the 5th largest economy in the world, the dominant manufacturing state in America. Our state of mind is around supporting stable trading relationships around the globe. And that's why today I've directed my administration to look at new opportunities to expand trade and to remind our trading partners around the globe that California remains a stable partner.
Seeing a lot of penguins in your social feed recently, more than usual? You can thank U.S. President Donald Trump for that. On Wednesday, Trump announced sweeping nearly 200 global trading partners.
We will establish a minimum baseline tariff of 10%.
But far down, or far south you could say, on the list, were a group of remote, barren, and uninhabited islands near Antarctica. Heard Island and McDonald Islands, a territory of Australia, were slapped with the 10% baseline tariff despite importing no products from the U.S. in the last year or having any economic activity since 1877.
And that's why they're fucking us over. Those penguins, they're fucking us over. Oh, you thought you were slick. You thought you were slick with your trade deficit. You better start purchasing F-150 pickup trucks right now. Get to work, you lazy f***s. For far too long, these so-called uninhabited islands have refused to buy American. My administration has decided not purchasing a fleet of Tesla for your uninhabited island is akin to terrorism. We will take over first Greenland, then institute Dane law on the UK once again, and last but not least, Madagascar and Club Penguin will be dominated. We are taking over the Penguin Island. The reign of terror will end. Everything is Tesla. Everything is computer.
The islands also don't have any actual residents, except for these guys. And so the internet did its thing and exploded with penguin memes, mocking the seemingly pointless tariffs on the islands, which are among the most remote places on Earth. Some expressed the penguins' frustration with the tariffs, Others poked fun at Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance's last meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, while others even suggested the penguins in Ukraine should join forces. Export data from the World Bank says the U.S. imported $1.4 million worth of products from Heard Island and McDonald Islands in 2022, but it's unclear exactly what those products were.
I think what happened was, whatever was the internal deliberation going on, my suspicion is that they couldn't reach an agreed conclusion. They needed something that was broad and uniform. They applied the rule and they kind of ran it over the full list of countries, and it produced a lot of these kind of nonsense numbers.
But that hasn't stopped the march of the penguin memes and just adds to the general sense of confusion as to why the islands and their waddling inhabitants were targeted with tariffs.
I mean, the European Union won't take chicken from America. They won't take lobsters from America. They hate our beef because our beef is beautiful and theirs is weak.
Breaking news, Vice President J.D. Vance.
Oh no, Jim Cramer says he was wrong to have believed Trump on tariffs. I feel like a sucker.
Just saying the Trump administration is, quote, feeling good about Trump's tariffs.
We're feeling good. Look, I frankly thought in some ways it could be worse in the markets because this is a big transition. You saw the president said earlier today, it's like a patient who was very sick. We did the operation, and now it's time to make the patient better. And that's exactly what we're doing.
All right, this says Jim Cramer from CNBC's Mad Money.
How could he have thought that it would be worse than what has happened so far? Like mass suicides at the New York Stock Exchange? Like, what is he saying? And it's just the beginning, too.
Who has never been a free trader, right? So he's not just out here to go against them. No. He's saying the White House doesn't seem to understand what it's trying to do and that the reciprocal tariffs are not reciprocal and could do tremendous damage. So out front now, Jim Cramer of CNBC's Mad Money and Squawk on the Street, all on CNBC. That incredible network that I will love to the day I die.
Just so great to be here with you, Erin.
So, and I'm so thrilled that we're able to talk. Okay, so what the heck is going on?
Well, I'm let down because I'm not a free trader. I'm a fair trader. Always have been from the days when you worked with me at CNBC.
Yep.
And what I was hoping was that
Remember when he was talking about? Remember when he was threatening the UAW for daring to strike against the big three and said that Mexico is right there. Puebla. Mexico is right there. They'll move the facilities to Puebla. I think that conversation in and of itself should show you exactly what these guys are worried about. And it kind of should show you why I am not a defender of free trade. Do you understand? Because when the UAW was striking against the big three auto manufacturers in the United States of America for fair contracts, this asshole went on television and said they should just move the facilities down to Puebla. That's the problem. I guess you recognize the problem, but you don't think it's a problem.
Coordinated thing where if you are charging us 20%, we charge you 20%. Instead of a car where we're only making you pay 2.5%, and you're not letting us in. We try to get things better. But instead,
so on a specific thing, you go, if they're 10 on a car, you go 10 on a car.
But I went deep on the numbers today, and the numbers did not make any sense. And I was actually.
I was doing like bananas in Vietnam. You did Cramerica.
Well, I just said, it's one of these things where if I'm doing 100 billion and you're letting me do 10 billion and I'm letting you do 100 billion, there was a way to be able to make it work. But the numbers that they did, and they had this ridiculous. I mean, that was the chart that they had with the mathematical equation. I mean, are you kidding me? How about just like
it looked like an Einstein.
I know. How about the fact that it was just wrong? Yeah. And what bothered me, Aaron, was that they really did over and over again. The president said, "Listen, it's going to be reciprocal. So you do it, we do it, and that was going to be so good." And I really believed in it. And I feel like a sucker tonight. Because I am not a free trader, and I do not believe in free trade. And I was just as tough, if not tougher, than his people. But they screwed it up, and they did it a totally ill-advised way. And I was very let down as someone who really, truly believes that free trade is awful for the American working person. This is what they came up with. Jeez, come on, have some gumption, have some math.
I mean,
Okay, if someone send me the Puebla link, please. He's not a free trader, he's a fair trader? Because if I recall, like I said, when he was talking about the UAW contract negotiations, he certainly came across like he was a He certainly came across like he was a free trader. I'll tell you that. Why would you link me a Lowell overruled tweet that just says, I'm definitely gonna have to post and balls? Like, what does that have to do with anything? Yeah, here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is.
Contract. The only way to get them within the contract they're operating under more money. So join that picket line. But at the same time, Ford is seeing some movement by Fain. David, I have a feeling that if Fain doesn't come to the table,
Fain being, of course, the man who runs the UAW,
I have a feeling that, David, if they don't come to the table soon, Mexico will be involved.
How soon?
A couple of weeks.
And how quickly could they move manufacturing of certain things?
They already have manufacturing.
So what does that mean when you say Mexico's in play? Explain what you mean.
So you have plants, say you have plants in Mexico.
Yes.
You can add on to them very easily. You can't do greenfield. I mean, it took Mercedes-Benz huge number.
But if you have an existing plant, it's not as difficult to add on.
That's the way you can do it. And by the way, the companies are very worried. Remember, there's a big. It's not just the 146,000 UAW workers. We're now starting to see some original equipment suppliers really get hurt. The layoffs are starting. I find the president, hate him or love him, joining the picket line may have been a very big mistake because that hardened Fain, hardened the UAW, which then hardened the auto companies. And if he hadn't come there, I think that there probably would have been a deal.
Yeah.
That was not a great move. If you wanted.
That's when I knew it was indeed a great move, by the way. I already felt that way on principle, but as soon as Jim Cramer came out and was like, that was not a great move, I was like, oh, it's indeed a great move. Perhaps the best one, you know? Inverse Cramer, baby. Always and forever. Inverse Cramer, undefeated. Inverse Cramer, always and forever. Puebla. But remember, he's a fair trader, not a free trader, you know? He's a fair trader. It's just the UAW was being unfair. You know?
Must be identified as the labor president.
Workers,
yeah, you're right.
If you favor workers away from the UAW, it's not a great move by the president.
The reason why I brought that up is not to dunk on Jim Cramer, even though it's a favorite pastime of mine, obviously. We love making fun of Jim Cramer. The reason why I brought that up is because he's fucking lying here. And it's very instructive for people to understand exactly how free trade works. Do you see what I mean? Because what he's saying there as a threat to the UAW is a weapon that the bosses over at the big three could have wielded over the UAW to be like, all right, we're fucking changing the manufacturing to Mexico. That is in the USMCA. That is how that was in NAFTA. That is how these things work. That's why we have designed these trade relationships, these trade agreements with other North American countries. That is a direct example of how these free trade agreements undermine labor union power, labor power across the board. It is perfect. That's why I showed it to you.
How in the world do they do that? After all of this, I mean, Jerome Powell...
They assured us over and over again, Aaron, that they were going to do the thing that would make it so that the tariffs would come down and the countries that were bad actors would change their...
I feel so out of my element trying to learn all about the interconnectedness of politics. Holy shit. I mean, I try to do my very best, but if you have any specific questions, I can explain it to you.
Their ways, and then Israel decides to get rid of tariff,
and they tariffed them anyway.
Vietnam decides to cut their tariff, and they still got the highest tariff. It was such a shame because they missed the opportunity, and now they have to pay the price. And it's funny too because none of this stock market, none of this had to happen, and I feel bad because a lot of people lose money when this happens. I hope people just be calm, be constructive, but the way that they handled it was so Bush League that I was surprised. And President Trump has people who around him know these.
Yeah, and the people around him who knows these things have been begging for exactly this to happen, specifically Peter Navarro. So, no, I don't think this is all that shocking. I think this was expected. He said he was going to do it. If you understood what Peter Navarro was all about, you would know that this is what he wanted to do. And the purpose here is not to like rebuild American manufacturing necessarily, but it's seen as a matter of national security. They want to go to war with China, and they can't do that if the relationship between China and the rest of the world, but specifically the United States of America, is so interwoven to the profit margins of American capital owners. You can't go to war with China. I mean, dude, Donald Trump's shadow president, Elon Musk, has fucking factories in Shanghai. Like, what are we talking about? The guy who is literally shoving his dick in every orifice of the federal government right now, Donald Trump's very own attack dog until recently, until his massive failure, Elon Musk has fucking factories in Shanghai. There is no national capitalist class. That just does not exist. These people don't care about national boundaries. Elon Musk is not even American. He's South African by way of Canada. It's just so fucking stupid not to recognize the reality that these people only care about profits, nothing else. And I'm not saying that because I'm like, oh, they should be nationalistic. I don't mean that at all. I don't want that. That's fucking stupid. But it's just like that's how deep our relationship with China goes in terms of trade.
These things and
can you explain why when you hear
why not just tariff China then? Why do we tax almost every other country? Because we're fucking stupid. That's the first answer. The second answer is, number one, we're stupid. Second answer is because Trump thinks in the short term that we are going to generate revenue off of this. And then that revenue will make up for at least one taxable period where he can just claim to fucking erode or permanently erode all fucking income taxes. Okay? That's another reason. And it's incredibly stupid, incredibly short-sighted. It will collapse this fucking country. I cannot even imagine a world where income inequality and the wealth disparity grows even larger in this country because we are already, I feel like we're already fucking tapped out, you know? What more? Just like servile slave masses, 99% are enslaved in like prison style company towns or something at gunpoint. They have to Disco Elysium, basically. The answer is not Disco Elysium. Sorry. The answer is Elysium, the movie. Not Disco Elysium. I apologize. Disco Elysium looks like a fucking utopia in comparison to this. And I guess that's like the one step removed from where we're at right now with the accelerated wealth disparity. So those are the reasons. Those are the reasons why they're doing this. The reason why they're doing global tariffs also is because they have this idea that this is going to somehow force foreign companies to open up more manufacturing facilities in the United States of America, make cars in the United States of America, get more jobs for Americans, I guess. And also in return, we are going to force our product that we are not even fucking manufacturing here right now. We're going to force our product into their marketplaces regardless, without any care or consideration for their sovereignty in terms of like the domestic regulatory agencies that they have. Not only are we undermining our federal regulatory agencies here in the United States of America by way of Elon Musk, we're also forcing trade disputes with no mediator body that exists right now because of the Obama era set attitude towards World Trade Organization, with no way of disputing any sort of fucking contract. Basically no way of disputing any sort of trade issues because we have starved the courts. The car argument is insanely weak. EU car makers already got most of their production for U.S. market in the U.S. No, I know. These are not my arguments. Yes, of course they're weak. I'm trying to explain to you what their perspective is. I'm not saying that this is a good argument. I disagree with what they're doing, but a chatter asked me like why they're doing this. So I'm explaining what their reasoning is, what their hidden reasons are, and what their overt open reasons are. I will also explain to you after I describe the reasons that they're stupid, as I have all day long. So every part of this argument is stupid because we don't even have the facilities. So it's stupid across the board. And some people think it's a wealth transfer. I don't think it is. I mean, everything we do is a wealth transfer. The system is designed for everything to be a wealth transfer to the very top of the wealthy. So that's just a normal byproduct of the structures that we exist under. So whichever way Trump goes, it's always going to be a wealth transfer unless it's a directly anti-capitalist initiative implemented with an anti-capitalist vision. So that's just a secondary consequence. That's just a permanent thing that happens under capitalism regardless. But yeah, I guess like they want to fucking abolish income tax, which is so stupid. And and I guess they want to rebuild like a World Trade Organization that is completely controlled by America, that like writes off China and doesn't allow China into it at all, or doesn't allow China to get the favored nations benefits, for example, like it does, which stop as it works, as it is right now, that stops countries from being able to add additional tariffs to China that they won't add to other markets. It's just one of the many things that the favored nations benefits offers countries like China. And Trump wants to stop that because he wants to sever the rest of the globe's ties with China by force in order to turn China into kind of like the USSR. Because the USSR did not have complex trade relations with the United States of America, which made it easier to engage in Cold War. But if you have a direct trade relationship with the United States of America, and Americans rely on cheap commodities that they get from you, that makes it infinitely more difficult to sever relationships with, sever ties with, and to go to Cold War with. Here's a great example of this. Fucking TikTok. TikTok is a treat. Think about how costly politically it is to make Americans not look at TikTok any longer, make it illegal to be on TikTok. Think about how difficult that is. It's the same principle for every commodity that is produced in China or in a secondary market that China has moved into in an effort to avoid the sanctions regime that Trump was signaling towards China. That's the reason why Vietnam gets hit with these tariffs too, by the way. Part of that is because they're not buying enough from us and we're buying everything from them. And the other reason is because Vietnam isn't just Vietnam. It's not just Vietnamese interests. It's just Chinese interests as well. He wants to turn China into Japan, essentially like a vassal state. You can't do that because Japan was a vassal state post-World War II. You can't do that to China. China is a sovereign nation. China does not have military bases. Chinese constitution was not written by the United States of America and completely controlled, as it was like developing post-World War II, by American interests and the American military. Here's a Democratic pollster saying, it appears that this is the fourth worst back-to-back day for the DJIA in American history, with a two-day combined minus 8.65% loss, only trailing the 1929 crash, 1987 Black Monday, and the 2008 financial crisis. I guess you can't correct 30-plus years of budget deficits, trade imbalances, and anti-American globalist giveaways in less than a week. Why are these guys actually like right populists? Like, I'm a little confused because their output comes across like they do care about American manufacturing, but I don't think that they do. I've never seen anything from the Trump administration nor its dick riders that suggest that they give a fuck about benefits and compensation packages and unionization in this country. They are inherently antagonistic towards American labor unions. And the only reason why they can even ostensibly present themselves as pro-labor or pro-labor union is because there is no motion within the labor unions anymore. The union participation rate is 10% in this country. Unions are entirely gutted. They have no power through through Supreme Court decisions. They have eroded all semblance of power. The Trump administration is also delivering a final blow to the NLRB as well. So, and he fucking, with the stroke of a pen, revoked the rights of federal union employees to collectively bargain. 1.5 million people lost their right, according to the Trump administration, the power to bargain, to engage in collective bargaining agreements. This is not an administration that cares about labor unions. This is not an administration that wants American manufacturing to return to its heyday, to return to its glory days. So I don't know why these guys act like they're actually labor populists here. I don't know why they're fucking presenting themselves as that.
Optimal.
Scott Besson, he is a smart guy.
He's very smart.
He is a smart, thoughtful, respected person. Right. And he came out and defended these.
Well, I think when you
But people like that, they know. He knows.
You know, I tried to think like that because Peter Navarro is someone I've known for for 5 decades.
Yep.
And I was hoping that Peter, who I talked with a lot, really understood, because he understood. He taught me these things. And I know he knows what reciprocal tariff really is. And he didn't deliver on that. And that was a shame, because there was such a great opportunity to course correct and make it so all these people who have taken advantage of our country repeatedly and wiped out all of the jobs in small towns, wiped out my father's job. This is one of the reasons why I've always felt like this. It's ridiculous how badly we've been taken advantage of. And I thought they were going to do something. And what did they do? They cratered the damn stock market and gave us nothing.
Well, I just want to emphasize again, I think it's so important to emphasize where you're coming from. Because there are some who will come out and say, well, free trade. Larry Kudlow, your old friend,
I know, and we always had, it was a very flashpoint with me and Larry.
Right, was about free trade, and they'll make the economic argument for it, and they'll make, right, that you're not actually coming from that. You would have been open. You're not ideologically opposed to the concept of what they were trying to do.
Not at all.
But they didn't do it.
They made a bargain with the devil. They decided to get rid of the American working person's good job with a good pension and sacrifice it so we could get cheap goods. And they never thought for a minute, the Republicans or Democrats, what would happen to those towns and those people, and they were left behind. And I always felt that was horrendous. A president...
He's such a liar, and not a particularly good one, because he's talking like he does an emotional plea by invoking his father. And yet I am reminded of the time when he was talking about Puebla. Remember, don't forget Puebla. Jim Cramer certainly never forgot Puebla. Okay? So the idea that he's like, in any way, shape, or form, in support of better contracts and beefing up American manufacturing and American labor unions is ridiculous. He's a stock trader. Of course he doesn't give a shit about that. He loves all of these decisions that were made. I don't care how much he tries to claim he's in support of these decisions.
And comes along that's going to do something about it, and this is what he does?
Part of the reason, and you and I are friends for a long, long time, but many people know our relationship for this one moment. Not this moment, but a moment.
Know it for decades of my so fortunate to be friends with you and your family.
There was this moment, and if anyone hasn't seen it, I'm going to play it. I'm going to play it because we're in a moment right now. I don't know if you heard Peter Tuchman describe it on the floor today. That it was a feeling like in COVID, of just feeling a darkness and a fear and on that floor that people hadn't felt. And it was a horrible feeling. It makes you feel sick. And there was another moment, he mentioned COVID, there was one other moment. And that moment was that horrible crash when nobody thought they could even get money out of an ATM.
Right. No, it was us.
And you said it like it was at that time. I want to play the moment.
He has no idea.
Kramer.
I have talked to the heads of almost every single one of these firms in the last 72 hours, and he has no idea what it's like out there. None!
Mad money, baby. That's the mad money guarantee.
And Bill Poole has no idea what it's like out there. My people have been in this game for 25 years. And these firms are going to go out of business, and he's nuts. They're nuts. They know nothing.
Kramer.
I have not seen it like this since I went 5 bid for 500,000 shares of Citigroup when I got hit in 1990. This is a different kind of market, and the Fed is asleep.
Nailed that one. Obviously is very much less medicated than me now, or maybe just younger and a little more fiery. But yeah, that was 2007. You and I both knew, and I was getting tired of trying to be calm and trying to be like you are supposed to be on TV. Right. But I always felt comfortable with you, and I know that.
Okay, I don't care about this. All right.
Trade war is also bad news for some American auto workers right now. Stellantis says it is temporarily laying off 900 workers in the Midwest. Now, that's the company behind Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, and Ram vehicles. Lana Zach has more on this part of the story from Detroit.
This is where I work. Myra Ziegler-Moore has worked on the line at Stellantis in Michigan for more than 6 years and is a member of the United Auto Workers Union.
I take so much pride in being able to make these vehicles.
She is currently on medical leave and in an earlier round of layoffs learned she would be losing her job at the end of the month.
Thank you.
Tell me what that was like.
It hurt. It hurt.
The Stellantis layoffs have nothing to do with, they don't have anything to do with the tariffs, but it might get worse.
But I have to pay bills. I have to have a place to live. Me especially, my medical, having hip and joint replaced.
Top Trump official so freaked out by tariffs he wants to quit. Scott Bessent is out. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent may be planning to cut and run after Donald Trump's disastrous reciprocal tariff announcement earlier this week. That's so funny because he was because he was just defending these decisions on Reuters immediately after the reciprocal tariff Liberation Day announcement. I was there. I saw him. We watched it together. Bro, you're reading Yahoo News? Yeah, it's also an opinion. No, this is a New Republic. This is a New Republic article. Never mind. It's not Yahoo News. It's just distributing a New Republic article. The reporting on this is more sound. It's not Yahoo News. Anyway. Oh, my God. Everything.
Being a breast cancer survivor.
And now with President Trump's 25% tariff on imported cars and parts in effect, additional layoffs are coming. In a memo to North American employees, Stellantis announced the company is, quote, continuing to assess the medium and long-term effects of these tariffs. The automaker is temporarily laying off 900 employees at 5 U.S. factories in the Midwest as a result of pausing production at some of its Canadian and Mexican plants. The Motor City Sports Bar and Grill is the watering hole for one of those American plants, Warren Stamping.
These unions are useless. Might as well scrap them. Scrap yourself, bitch.
Nearly everyone here works for Stellantis.
Are you worried that these tariffs, even if they were good for the auto industry, that it's going to mean that it's going to cost more when you go to buy things?
Yeah, it's going to affect a lot of the small people.
People are worried.
The fear is they could be bigger.
Yes.
They could last longer.
Always. Anytime you hear layoff, bigger and longer is definitely something that we think of.
And in a statement, the president of the United Auto Workers Union, Shawn Fain, took aim at those cuts, saying that Stellantis continues to play games with workers' lives. Now, you know, he hasn't always been supportive 100% of President Trump, but he is supportive of this tariff plan.
The president's wave of new tariffs includes...
Great. People are buying cars. We're winning. That's great. Here, let's watch Dave Porkboy cry, losing $7 million overnight due to tariffs.
I almost tweeted out, Dave, how much are you down right now and today? 7 million. I'm down $7 million in stocks and crypto. And it's tariff city. Trump has put his tariffs all over the place. I've been trying to understand them. I don't. Like, it's more a trade deficit tariff to me. Like, hey, we get this much shit from you and you get this much from us. Let's even that up. Let's get some wacky formula and do tariffs. And everything's in the shitter because of it. I almost tweeted out, Dave, how much are you down right now and today? 7 million. I'm down $7 million in stocks and crypto.
Can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs? Yeah. Oh, did you see Cutie get hit by tariffs? What, for her Depop shop?
It's a 25% hike on all imported cars, and that just kicked in overnight.
Not gonna lie, this does make me feel a bit better. Yeah, this is my attitude on the matter, which is that, like, listen, everybody's getting their retirement funds wiped out, okay, across the board. It's universal. And so it's a little bit of catharsis when you watch, like, some of these actual fucking villains who championed this demise personally see repercussions. Now, percentage-wise, in totality, their repercussions are far, far greater than yours because you don't have a retirement account that can lose $7 million. Neither do I. But it's still fun, right? You might as well have a little bit of fun might as well try to enjoy the show as everything is collapsing all around. Might as well have this attitude. Exactly. Breaking: world's 500 richest people have lost around $500 billion in the past 2 days, according to Bloomberg.
I don't have words to tell you. And let me tell you, I've been taken up to the third heaven. I've been jacked into the big plan. I've seen it. I can't even compute all of it. It's so fantastical. You've not seen nothing. You ain't heard nothing. You ain't smelled nothing like this. I don't have words to tell you. But I tell you, anybody tries to get in the way of the incredible plan the big guys got for us has got me pissed, and I'm just begging to stay on the team, man. Just put me in the game, coach. Whatever you say, coach. I know I'm weak. I know I'm pathetic. Man, you're amazing. I'm so lucky you made me. What do I do, Bob? Like a hunting dog, man. Just take me out of the house. Just turn me on them. Just tell me what I got to do. Tell me how I serve you. Tell me what I can do for you right now. Woo!
That's why he lost the weight. They sent him to the countryside to atone for his counter-revolutionary ways. That's why he's so skinny now. That's what happened. Like, look how fat he is here. Like the capitalist pig that he is. And then they shipped his ass to the fucking countryside, and he got re-educated, and now he's skinny and also a loyal servant of the peasant class, a loyal servant of the workers, a loyal servant of the proletariat. Yeah, he had his own personal cultural revolution. It's true. Honestly, terrified with everything that's happening now. Is there anything we can do? I mean, this is the type of shit that you have no say or control over. So I don't have a good answer for you. I mean, we barely have any say or control over protesting against things that everyone should be on board with, like protesting against the destruction of the First Amendment, protesting against the destruction of the erosion of due process. But in terms of like foreign trade, trade policy, tariffs, and the like, what the fuck are you supposed to do? They're not asking you about any of that shit. They never have. I feel like when it comes to trade policy, when it comes to tariffs, things of that nature, there's not even the aesthetics of the democratic process there. That's just like, nope, elites decide. And in this situation, it's not even the elites deciding. It's like one guy deciding, seemingly, with a bunch of his friends. And there's not really anything you can do about it. You got to sit back and observe. Not everything needs a reaction. Sometimes it's okay to sit back and observe, you know?
CBS News Money Watch correspondent Kelly O'Grady shows us how that means many car buyers are rushing to buy before the prices go up in the dealerships.
At this car dealership in New Jersey, Tom Aioli says there is a flurry of activity going on.
Customers are in a panic. There's a frenzy going on. They want to buy cars before the tariffs hit and prices go up.
Maioli is the owner of several new and used car dealerships in New York and New Jersey.
Need a strong close.
We first visited him at the end of last year.
We first met back in December when tariffs were originally announced. How has your business fared since then?
It's doing great. New car sales are up. Used car sales and prices are up because consumers need vehicles.
But with President Trump enacting a 25% tariff on all imported cars, he expects drivers to see a big price increase.
In this specific dealership, about 30% of the inventory is assembled in the U.S., but parts come from all over the world, so all of them are going to be affected by the tariffs. This is a $77,000 MSRP car, so a 25% increase on this is approximately $20,000.
Maioli says there's a number of shoppers wanting to beat the tariff deadline.
I don't have anything on the ground.
No. We met a couple wanting to avoid the higher prices.
This was the incentive to go a little bit sooner.
Maioli has stocked up on parts to keep repair prices unchanged for as long as possible.
You have a rotor here and you have a disc and the brake pads are in here. Most of these parts come from Mexico and China.
With the 25% tariff, what could that do to the cost of the brake?
25% increase of the car parts, and you're talking about a 25% increase of the repair. It's going to be another $500 to get your brakes repaired.
More than 50% of cars sold in the U.S. last year were made in the States. But automakers still rely heavily on manufacturing plants in other countries, especially Canada and Mexico. The Trump administration hopes to incentivize more domestic production, but that will take time.
You're talking 2 to 3 year cycle. So we're going to do major damage to the economy and the consumer.
You're a longtime supporter of President Trump.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on how he's handling tariffs, particularly in the auto industry?
Well, listen, if I were to sit at the table with him today, I would ask him to reconsider his position, and I would say that he needs to do this with a carrot and not a stick.
Kelly O'Grady joins us at the table. So we know the auto tariffs. Other tariffs are expecting to follow. How soon do you think it'll be before we, the consumer, start to feel it?
So normally a dealership has about 1 to 2 months of inventory on the lot. So anything after that, when they have to import a car, is going to get hit with that tariff. I did ask Maioli, though, is that the case? And he said, look, so many consumers have actually come in to get ahead of that deadline. Their inventory is pretty much wiped out. I do think what you're going to see, though, is some automakers try and get creative with pricing. And in fact, Ford announced this morning employee discounts for all through June 2nd. So any customer coming in is going to pay what you would as an employee. So that's kind of where I think you're going to see them try and get a little bit creative, because consumers may start to pull back and not want to buy.
Of course. So what does this mean for the market and also your 401k?
Well, so last afternoon, when the president was speaking, we saw the market start to go down significantly. It's continued that this morning in pre-market trading. And specifically, you're seeing the tech stocks take a hit because so many of them rely on China and Taiwan to import products. The problem is that is what drives a lot of the S&P 500. And so you mentioned your 401k. A lot of our 401ks are invested in funds that track the S&P 500. So when that goes down, so does your 401k.
All right, Kelly, we appreciate you. And all of this tariff talk could be convoluted for some. So we have something for you. It's a useful tool.
I mean, I expected it to go down and expected it to go down that drastic.